Hey podcast listeners, it's Gfire. Today we are featuring guitarist and songwriter Betty Benedeadly from Austin, Texas. But before we get into it, I wanted to let you know I have put out a fantastic new EP called Choosing My Own Colors on hot pink vinyl. The 5-song all-original album is available for purchase on my website, gfirepodcast.com. That's gfirepodcast.com. You can also stream Choosing My Own Colors on Spotify, Apple Music, and wherever you get your favorite tunes. Now here's the podcast. Hello. Hey.
Well, that is a lovely voice. I can hear you loud and clear.
Well, that's good, right?
Yeah, it's nice to meet you finally.
I know. Nice to meet you too, Betty. Great. Let's just get into it. Where are you from originally?
Oh, man. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. But there's been a lot of bus stops between then and now, and I hardly ever claim it. I moved to Austin almost 15 years ago, so that's the main cultural reference point, I think. But I spend a lot of time in New Mexico also, so that's where I am at the moment.
Right, exactly. Are you working there? Or?
I do remote work, so
okay,
I can work from wherever. But my sister just had her first baby in Santa Fe, so I've been trying to stick close to that chapter of the family.
That's nice.
I don't know.
So you're an aunt now.
For the first time.
For the first time.
Great. I love it.
Very cool. Super cool.
I thought that would trigger the mommy pangs being around my sister and her baby, but I think it made it really clear that rock and roll is my baby.
Right, you're not wanting to have kids of your own.
Yeah, I get to be really cool auntie. I'm going by Uncle Red Lips with baby Bowie.
Uncle Red Lips?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, what drew you to being a singer-songwriter? Well, actually, do you sing? Because the track you sent me is instrumental.
Nope, I've never done singing. All instrumental arrangements. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it's bothering me. Why would she call you Uncle?
Oh, I'm choosing that name. She's one right now. She does
okay,
she's pretty
I was
pre-verbal.
Right, because you're not trans, right? Yeah, I didn't think so. You don't seem like it, but I've been wrong before. Okay, just because you're in a band with Christina, who is definitely trans. That's the only reason I was thinking, okay, is there something I don't know? But no, not at all. Okay.
You know, it's like when the baby comes for the first baby in the family, I'm like watching all the grandparents, like who's going to be Papa and Mama, and everyone's kind of picking their little baby family identifiers. And me and my sister just thought, why not start early with bashing some of the constructs? So
okay, sort of the rebel, and you wanted to be Uncle Betty.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. All right, well then, you mainly play guitar, right?
Yeah. These days, my baby is a 7-string banjo.
Right, I noticed that was, you said that's the first time you ever wrote a song on the banjo.
Yes, Banjo Blossoms was the first. It's so fun when you pick up a new instrument and or get a new pedal or something.
Oh yeah.
And it just kind of unlocks, lets new songs channel through you, come through your fingers, and that definitely happened. So this was kind of the song that just emerged as soon as I started plucking around on the new instrument.
Nice. That's really cool. How much does one of those cost?
I got that one at South Austin Music for like 700.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
And
paid.
from what I've researched, I think it's a pretty pro top line. It's a gold tone brand. Um, yeah, it's fun. It's got electric pickups in it. I still run it through all my pedals and out a big Fender amp and play it a little psych rocky, I guess.
I'm all about the psych rock. That's definitely
Yeah.
one of my interests for sure. Is it made by a banjo company or is it made by a guitar company or?
Gold Tone primarily does banjos, I believe. So yeah, I hadn't heard of them before kind of starting to peek in the banjo hybrid world. I've learned a lot since. People see this and they like come up and offer a lot of cool stories and musical history that I wasn't aware of in the past. But one thing I have learned since acquiring this instrument is that with most major innovations on stringed instruments, at least in the US, there's always been a banjo hybrid. Like, I went to an old timey string shop in Madison, Wisconsin, and I played a pre Civil War banjolele. It was a
Whoa.
ukulele banjo hybrid that dated back pre Civil War. So it's been a long time of experimenting with the banjo resonator and kind of whatever is happening in music usually sees some fringe little hybrid offshoot.
That's nuts. I'd never heard of that before. Well, I'd actually never heard of
Banjolele.
banjitar either, but a banjolele, yeah. That's,
Hmm.
wow. So
It
how
took me
many,
a little bit to get over the imposter syndrome. I always wanted to learn banjo proper. And then I found this instrument and was like, well, this is just a big old shortcut to getting a lot of those sounds without having to learn a whole new type of, fingering and playing. But I think I've sufficiently gotten over the imposter syndrome and embraced the one of the marvelous things of being alive today. I feel like I'm really hold closely the things that I do appreciate about being born in the modern age, because it's not that many to be honest. But
right, right. There's a lot of,
one of them is beautiful, cool access to music from all over the world and access to amazing DIY recording and cool instruments from all over. So I'll take the wins when you can.
yeah, well, I make a lot of beats and stuff, so I bought, I think it was Sound Toys, a bunch of their effects and stuff. I don't know if you've used those, but yeah, it really helps when you're like, oh, I got this fun toy to put vocals through or keyboards or whatever. Really good
Totally.
stuff. Love it. And then
Yeah.
actually on the album that I made, there was a guy that played a sitar guitar. So I didn't actually use a sitar player. Had a guitar player that had a sitar guitar. So I'm already
What
right in there
was
with
it?
you.
I know the Dan Electro makes a pretty cool one. Do you know, was it like a seafoam green Dan Electro?
I will have to ask Denny to make sure, but yeah,
They're
I need,
fun. They're fun to
yeah,
play.
it turned out great. It was a very kind of India influenced song, but you know, you use what
Cool.
you got, and you're like, oh, that actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome.
Well, so okay, so when did you start like playing and writing songs and all that good stuff?
I kind of came to the actual playing part kind of late. I always was like a huge music nerd, lover, collector. I remember when I was like an undergrad, I spent a month in Spain just collecting like underground Spanish punk records. And, it was always just a huge. My grandpa did radio for over 55 years, and I grew
Oh,
up playing in his basement where he had converted every wall into closets that stored his collection of over 10,000 LPs. Radio is totally different thing then. It was like,
sure.
as the DJ, he was the collector bringing in his suitcase of vinyl into and telling all the stories and curating the playlists. So I think he instilled a lot of it at a really young age. And when I was around college age, I got into doing first college radio and then transitioned into community radio for 3 years. Um, and I
Is
think
this
I was,
in Austin or in Wisconsin or?
that was in Madison,
Okay,
Wisconsin.
so you went to school
Hmm.
in Madison.
Yeah. Well, yeah, master's I did there. Yeah. And then it wasn't until my late 20s, almost 30, that I finally had, I don't know, the urge, maybe the discipline, the confidence to set to picking up an instrument. Um, there was also a very pivotal concert and band that I went to go see, a group called Spindrift from LA. They do amazing psychedelic spaghetti Western music. Um, and after I saw them, I decided uh, that this is what I wanted to do with my life. So just got real obsessive about it and didn't really start until I was 30. And meeting Zena, who you mentioned earlier, was a really key part of that whole time. We were both going through really big life chapter transition changes when we'd run in the same circles. We both like worked Burning Mans and would bump into each other working festivals like Bonnaroo and whatever. But then when we ran into each other at a party in Austin, she had just moved back, and we both were like, she was just like wanting to pick up drums later in life, and I was just wanting to pick up guitar kind of later in life. And so we started jamming together, and just kind of supporting such a valuable role, those friends that like support you in those earliest moments, when you're first learning how to like hold your instrument or play the first few chords, but you're like doing it at the same pace and cheering each other on. So that was, I think, the role Zena and I played for each other. And She-Verb was born out of that. We just were having so much fun. We decided we wanted to start a band. So, yeah,
And how many
that
piece
was kind of
band
the
is it?
origin.
Yeah, you did you
Now it's a 5-piece band.
Okay.
Yeah, it's gone through chapters. I mean, we played our first show as a duo, just us.
Just you and
Uh,
Zeta.
yeah, just drums and guitar, and then we got a bass player, and then we got a trumpet player, and another guitar player. It just kind of slowly grew. So yeah, now the arrangement is trumpet, bass, two guitars, and drums.
Okay, so again, an instrumental band.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
and we've never done vocals, although Dina and I have fun writing stories or prayers and poems, and sometimes we'll set that like spoken word like to our music. Um, on our very first album, Zena wrote a really cool story. I guess so. She-Verb was at the heart of that project was Zena and I enjoying playing with the motifs of spaghetti Western twangy sounds, but as we started to dig into those cultural assets, they were really problematic, especially, for a trans woman. Like, there's just not a lot of room in those narratives for, you know, others often. And so we kind of wanted She-Verb to be a platform to play with those cultural building blocks and sounds of the Old West, but reclaim them and rearrange them to present a more feminine reality. And that's definitely a through line that's kind of carried through even to the Banjitar Blossoms, which we can get into later. But
Right.
yeah, so we were kind of like really playing with all these ideas of reveling in the sounds and the fringe and the cowboy boots and the things that we've come to love, but being very unabashed about like there's very problematic values at the heart of a lot of those stories and narratives that I feel have a responsibility to call out if you have a platform, especially with the way the world is going today. This is like a very direct parallel in a lot of ways. So that's one way we tried to use our art and music to put a drop of good in the bucket of this world today.
Right, because, yeah, very male oriented cowboy Western films back I guess in the 50s and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and the violence and the relationship to nature. It's usually like we're looking for gold, and we're killing natives along the way to
Oh,
do
wow.
so. And even, usually the heroes, even if they're quote unquote good guys, they're still usually using their gun as the answer to solve problems, right? In a very like vigilante justice way. So, okay, I got off track. Zena wrote this beautiful story in which we were trying to kind of write a Western tale that flipped a lot of that on its head. And the tale involves a group of friends heading west together. So, group and community instead of the lone gunman. Um, you have a fire in the desert. A stranger walks up to the fire. We invite the stranger in and offer food and drink. So, like communing instead of othering. And as a reward, the stranger turns out to be this mystical person that shows us how to call forth our future by using elements of nature, cactus, and rattlesnake juice to, weave some magic in the world. So it was kind of like playing with a lot of the symbol sets, the cactus and the Western, whatever, the desert. But we wanted at our core, like the story to be feminine. And on our very first record, we invited a wonderful Austin-based country singer named Hartley Hall to come into the studio and read the story like over one of our songs. We wanted a female narration to, juxtapose the like default ubiquitous male narrator that you get in pretty much every movie that does that thing. So that's a little
That's
bit
a
of where
very
Shiver came
interesting
from.
way to come up with your band, basically, the themes of your
Yeah,
band. So, yeah, of course,
it
I'm
was
thinking,
heady.
yeah, I mean, I've been to Burning Man 3 times, and
Oh, cool.
yeah,
What
yeah,
years do you remember?
yeah, 98, 2002, and 2004.
Nice. All
Yeah,
right. Some of the good old days.
the
Good
good
old
old
days.
days. Yeah, I'm really glad I wasn't there for the mud last year, of course. But yeah, having a fire and inviting the stranger, and I'm like, that just sounds so Burning Man right off the bat.
That's funny. Yeah. Xena and I, yeah, some of our origin story together definitely hovers around Burning Man. And then even after we started Shever, I ran the bicycle programs at Burning Man, the yellow bikes, the free
Right,
bikes,
right, okay,
and I ran the abandoned bike cleanup effort and getting all those abandoned bikes to nonprofits. Um, and so Xena came out and worked on the bike crew, and our trumpet player James came out and worked Burning Man. So we kind of would have some little stripped down she-verb out running around Burning Man together. Kind of 2000, yeah, 2000, I don't know, early 2000s.
early 2000s. Okay,
Or what do you call it? 2010s? Early
2010s. That's
2010s
different.
is what
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. Who'd y'all camp with?
Well, I was managing a DPW camp, the
Okay,
bicycle program. So it was kind of
gotcha.
like in the DPW infrastructure
Got
camp.
it. Got it.
Hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. Checks off that box. Oh,
Yeah.
let's turn it around. You brought in this song. It's called Banjitar Blossoms, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you want to set it up, or you want to have our listeners listen to it and then talk about it?
Um, let's just listen to it and then I'll tell some cool stories afterwards.
Very cool. So that, it's attached to a very cool video that you got to do because of the City of Austin Live Music Grant that I also got.
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
So yeah. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. And you as well. So yeah, let's set up the whole backstory and the grant, or however you want to set it up. Whatever you want our listeners to know about the Banjitar Blossoms that we haven't already covered with the actual Banjitar. We already settled that one.
Yeah. Well, as soon as I got that grant, I really wanted to make a quality live music video because I felt like that was a missing thing in the press kit for getting some bigger bookings, if you're applying to festivals and bigger things. If you're an unknown entity, the first thing they want to see, sometimes the only thing they want to see, is a live music video and see what you can serve up in a live environment. So that was clear that I wanted to do a live music video, but I didn't want to just kind of do, like, I don't know, a run-of-the-mill static cam thing. I really wanted to, since I was, given this honor of a nice sum of money to do something to really push the creative vision. I wanted to try to incorporate some of those themes we were talking about, like a new Western symbol set, a more feminine portrayal of what we should value about a new Wild West mythology, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And so I reached out to my incredibly talented friend, Alex Olson, who, if anybody's listening, who was like around Austin back in the day, he was the front man of an incredible project called Machete Western. Really, and I recommend checking out. They were fun. They were like, it was almost like seeing the Cramps or something. They were like a really wild, awesome show that would involve like gimp masks and like nude suits and spray foam, and but they played very like spaghetti western with tongue-in-cheek lyrics. Really fun project. So it was my favorite project when I moved to Austin, but they disbanded shortly after that. And Alex, the frontman, went on to get into doing animation art and live projections for shows. He tours internationally with Tame Impala. He just did Sierra Farrell's Jimmy Kimmel stage show. So he's really done awesome things and gotten to work with some incredible people, and he's getting great recognition for his beautiful art, doing this very kind of psychedelic animation style. So we sat down and I was like, man, I just got this grant and I think I can finally afford working with you. And I would love the video to be a portrayal of, let's like invent a new iconography, a visual language for neo-Western mythology. And I wanted it to be all feminine. When She-Verb first started, the first couple album covers we did, we would have people listen to music and be like, okay, we're like feminist spaghetti Western. And inevitably the first round of artwork we would get back would be like guns, a saguaro cactus, the pistol, like the sheriff's badge, right? And so those are like the most prominent symbol sets on everyone's mind. And we're like, okay, no, we're not gonna have like a cop emblem, and we live in Texas, we don't have saguaros, and we hate guns. We actually like intentionally took all the old cartoony gun noises that we used to use sometimes in our live shows, and then we took it completely out at one point when we kind of reviewed that a little bit more critically. So when I sat down with Alex to do this animation art, it was like, I want to celebrate the medicine of the desert, the plant life, the fertility and the blossoms blooming in a harsh environment. I want to celebrate the sensuality of the female form, like not from a male gaze and a very exploitive, like the brothel, whatever, or the bartender wench. Like I want like powerful goddess desert femininity. And yeah, so that was kind of the starting point, was let's give people some visual language to attach to what I hope we start to value a little bit more in our world in general. And we can start with like the Western mythology tales that we're telling. So he developed this beautiful art. And then I was looking for a venue that we could do a live performance and film it, but that it would really showcase the animation art. And Dada Lab came to mind. If
Where's it?
anybody's Dada Lab, have you heard of it?
No, Dada what?
Lab.
Dada Lab.
Yeah,
It's like a sound stage.
So it is a really cool room in a warehouse district in East Austin, like pretty close to MLK and Airport. But it's not quite your traditional like bar or music venue. They actually don't have a bar. They don't have a liquor license. They run it a little bit more as like a gallery. And they have floor to ceiling like blank walls with mounted projectors mapped to the whole space. So they do these really cool, immersive, experimental ambient noise shows. Me Mermo Monday, which is kind of like experimental weird noise scene, happens there. Yeah, so it was a great candidate of a place that could hold a lot of people, execute some really cool, like, but we were wrapped in the animation art, like not just the band on the stage behind us, but the audience was completely surrounded, immersed in this animation art while we played the show. Yeah, so that was kind of how it all came together. And you never know, right? Like you get this money and you set everything up and you're like, a million little things could go wrong, but they were just, I don't know, everything worked out just great. And I'm really proud of how it came out. So.
Nice. How many folks did you get in the audience?
Man, I was shocked. I couldn't tell you an exact number, but I will say that the moment the doors were supposed to open, and I had no idea because I had been in this like warehouse room with no windows or anything when we were setting up. We did a bunch of takes with just the band and the video crew before the audience got there so that they could get all the close-up shots. And we could get a few practice runs in. And so then the doors are supposed to open and we leave this little cocoon of a warehouse room we've been in for hours, and the sky is black and all of our phones start buzzing like emergency flash flood warnings, and I-35 flooded, the east side was flooding, and so I expected like nobody to show up because
Right, exactly.
the people that did show up had to fight through some serious like natural disaster weather to get there. But the room like filled out. I mean, it's packed. You can see in the video. It's great. And we had recommended, black Western wear encouraged so that it would be a cool sea of silhouettes
Right.
against this projection room. And so everybody showed up in looking fly Western wear, and it's a sea of cowboy hats. Everybody was actually like soaking wet because they had come. Even if you just ran through the parking lot, you were completely soaked by the time you got into the space. But really what that meant was like the people that showed up were just a very intimate, it was a very intimate cross-section of me and the other musicians, friend group, collaborators, other bandmates. Like it was just a very heartfelt room. I seem to recall looking around and thinking there was only two people in the whole audience of, I don't know, 60, 70 people that weren't close friends of ours, that were kind of like randos, like maybe the ones that heard about it on co-op radio or something. But yeah, it turned out great.
That's awesome. Which co-op show were you on?
I always get a little bit of airplay with Dark Side Daddy. I love Dark Side Daddy on Saturday. It's one of my favorite shows.
Okay.
So great. But I was getting random texts from friends in the weeks leading up to it that that it was getting plugged on other people's shows too. So I apologize if I'm not representing the other people that played it. But I know that people other than Dark Side Daddy did give it some love and attention, which was super appreciated.
Excellent. So what's next? You said you're trying to get into some festivals and stuff. Have you had any luck yet?
We'll see. I just applied for a few music festivals, and I have high hopes for it. But as soon as that grant money came in, it was like, yeah, give money to creatives, man. They will make that stretch so far.
Oh, yeah.
It was like I got the friends together. We sat down and we were like, okay, we got given a phenomenal amount of money to make one music video.
Right.
Was the entirety of my proposal. But we were like, well, if we overlap and stack the studio days and the filmings and the pieces just right, like we could put out a lot more. So what's coming next? And a lot of this ended up being doubled up activities that we could repurpose from the original music video to meet the needs of the proposal. Next, we're going to be coming out with the studio produced. So what you heard today was the live take, right?
Right.
We recorded, the studio version. That's going to be a single that probably by the time this airs will have come out. Late mid-August, I think, on Desert Records.
Right.
Great little Albuquerque-based label.
How'd you find them?
They found me, man. They found Gfire. They found Gfire when they were just kind of getting the label started, and I've worked with them like faithfully on a lot of things. I absolutely adore them. It's kind of a funny story. The guy who runs this record label just kind of cold called Gfire and said, "Hey, I love what you ladies are doing. I have a series that I'm putting together of LPs, vinyl, that I'm calling Gunslingers, and I'm trying to find all the bands that are doing modern, kind of spaghetti western desert rock kind of stuff, and it'll always be two bands paired, like an A-side and a B-side band." And he envisioned having a huge volume of it, like at least a dozen of these, and put one out each year. And he's still doing this project. And I wrote him back a potentially extremely obnoxious email that was like, "Thanks for reaching out. Love what you're doing. Love the bands you're signing. But here's a little bit of our philosophy as a band. And the Gunslinger label is a total miss. We don't want to align our music with glorification of violence or kind of the old guard and the old motifs of the Western, blah, blah, blah." I mean, it was we had never met yet in person. So a potentially very off-putting, preachy email. But he was so humble and cool. He wrote back like a page response that same exact day, and he said, "Whoa, like, thank you. I love everything you're saying. I don't want this to be like another, just regurgitating kind of the old hat thing. Like, I'm going to rename this series to Legends of the Desert. And I do want this to be about the magic and mysticism of the desert and all the music that's inspired by the desert." And so he renamed his whole project based on this conversation. And that kind of just like solidified a lifelong friendship between myself and Brad Fry is his name, the owner and operator of Desert Records. So yeah, so he's going to be putting out Banjitar Blossoms.
Right.
And
who's going to be on the other side?
This is just going to be a Betty Benedeadly single.
Gotcha.
So it's not Legends of the Desert yet for this one. And then when we put out the studio version of the song, we're going to put out another music video that just features the animation art.
Okay.
So it'll be like a solid 5 minutes of just the beautiful animation art. Whereas if you look up the Banjitar Blossoms live at Data Lab music video, it's a live music video, right, with that art being projected around
Right.
us. And the editor did a really nice job splicing a little bit of the original animation art into it, but it's predominantly, the live music video. So next will be the single. We'll get the actual just straight up animation music video released. And while I had collected this incredible, talented group of friends to do the studio, we just went ahead and extended the sessions a little bit and recorded a whole album of all these banjo tunes that I had been working on. So I think that's going to be coming out in October on Desert Records. It's a full-length banjo psychedelic desert rock album.
Wow, that's really unique and pretty fun, and repurposing stuff and creating new art. It's all great. It's really
Yeah.
really fantastic. So, well, now where can people find you? What's do you have a website that you mostly use, or are you on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc.?
I'm on all of those things you just said, except TikTok. I have not quite crossed over to that yet. Actually, I don't think I will. I'm done following social media. I can't do any more of it, but I try to keep up on Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
I got really lucky with the Betty Benedeadly name. If you look up Betty Benedeadly, there's only one of those on the internet. You'll find
Gotcha.
the Instagram. I do have a website where I try to keep things pretty updated on my MailChimp's website. Again, if you just look up Betty Benedeadly, it's going to be one of the first things that comes up. I have an email list. You can subscribe if you don't do social media and just want to get some updates straight to your inbox. Yeah, and Spotify and YouTube. Spotify is definitely the thing I need to push next, because unfortunately those numbers, man, really dictate a lot of access sometimes. But
Right.
yeah.
Well, cool. Is there anything I didn't cover that you want to bring up?
I don't think so. Thanks for being so sweet and helping spread the word about a new creative project. It's a delight always to connect with other women blazing their way through these industries and supporting each other. And I super admire that. So thank you.
You're quite welcome. Well, Betty Benedeadly, people check her out. YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. Spotify, since she needs a little boost on there. Go check her out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Door closes, another